This is our first year at Dartmouth, and in our short time here, we've come to discover a new side to Latinidad we never knew existed. While in our homes, Latinidad was not a conscious aspect of everyday life. Here at Dartmouth, where most bodies don't look like us, speak like us, or think like us, we've become aware of the significant power that Latinidad has over us. This is why we have decided to make this video. We wanted to explore how Latinidad has defined us in the eyes of others and how we define ourselves as we continue our journey as Dartmouth students. Most of our experiences with Latinidad are based off of our encounters with others and how others on campus perceive Latinidad. This is what we found out.
What is Latinidad?
Latinidad?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I have no idea.
Latinidad?
I'm guessing, I'm assuming.
To me,
Latinidad is
Say identifying with Latino identity. And I think it can manifest in many different ways because Latin America is a lot of different things and a lot of different places and people.
it's a very broad term that encompasses anyone that feels that is Latino or feels affinity towards Latinos.
Rid of the word, I'm guessing it's something that has to do with the unity of perhaps different Latino groups within the United States.
Think of it as bonds that bring people together from similar backgrounds, in this case, people of Latino backgrounds.
I've looked at that term in a theoretical approach for how it's a pan-ethnic collective identity for Latino, so Latin American population.
it's like an essence of Latino identity. It's like if you identify as Latino, then maybe you express that in terms of Latinidad.
Geras Valvida, a professor of Latino Studies at the University of Illinois, has defined it as the process of being, becoming, and belonging within a Latino diaspora. Based on our own experiences and opinions, as well as the variety of responses that people on campus express, Latinidad is not a concrete and homogeneous identity. And although its fluidity helps include members of diverse Latino cultures, it is also problematic because there isn't one definition to Latinidad. It means variety of things to every Latino and Latina, as well as non-Latinos. In order to understand how Latinidad manifests itself currently on campus, we need to look back now at how the Latino community started here at Dartmouth. Dartmouth has had a history of admitting students from Latin America and South America, but it was not until the 1950s when the first US-born Latino was admitted. And surprisingly, this Latino was from the other side of the country. Fernando de Necochea, class of 1962, is from a small border town of Calexico, California, and was recruited to Dartmouth College on a football scholarship. Because he made up the whole Latino body then, Latinidad was not prevalent on campus. Latinidad and the Latino community did not begin to flourish until the late 1980s. As our visibility and numbers grew, one of the ways that we have affirmed our Latinidad was through the creation of safe spaces that have allowed us to make un hogar here in Hanover.
Where do I see Latinidad on campus? I think here at Dartmouth in particular, I would say that pan-ethnic identity is not necessarily constrained, but it's definitely clustered in two ways, and one is the curricular element. So the LATS, I think the curriculum there gives us a sense of understanding all of the nuances of that intercultural identity, and then I think it's also, you can see it in the co-curricular elements. So all of the student organizations, including La Alianza and others that also feature a sense of bonding and commonality.
In present day, with a much larger Latino community than in the 1950s, Latinidad has continued to affirm its presence on campus. Albeit a small portion of the student population, we have garnered both positive and negative visibility. One of the most current events that has affected the Latina and Latino community has been the cancellation of the Greek-sponsored event Fiesta. There was such an eruption of discord and dialogue on campus that it even garnered the attention of national media outlets. It pushed our community to defend its Latinidad, as non-Latinos defined what was an acceptable representation of Latina and Latino culture.
Well, our next guest wrote a response to the move, and we are joined now by the editor-in-chief of Dartmouth Review, Nicholas Desatnik. Thanks for being with us, Nick. So why did you feel it was important to speak up and write your piece?
Well, thank you for having me. The reason I decided to write that piece was the mood on campus was such that there's a lot of frustration, even anger, over the way in which this was handled. A lot of the comments on the initial report about the way in which this was handled were negative and very critical of the way in which the administration pursued this. So I felt the need, as someone at the editor at the review, to write a more cohesive, holistic response.
Nick, are you saying that the student body perceived this as what? What was the general fear on campus or response from the students when the party was canceled?
The general sense on campus, from my standpoint, was one of outrage in many senses. People were horrified that the reaction from the administration was such that the sensitivity of one group was able to outweigh what was a charitable event put on by the vast majority of the student body. So most people on the campus, as far as I can tell, are very much in agreement with the opinions we express in the paper.
The reactions from Latinas and Latinos on campus were as diverse as the makeup of our own community. There were members who vocally agreed with the need to stop an appropriation of an aspect of our culture. Others from the community were outspoken about the Latina and Latino community's involvement in the steps which led to the cancellation of the fiesta event. There were also members who shied away from this attention and tension, and as a result shied further away from Latinidad here at Dartmouth. However, despite the wide range of sentiments from all Latinos and Latinas, this event ultimately forced our need to revisit the role of our own personal form of Latinidad in respect to other Latinos and Latinas.
Media backlash forced us to engage in certain ways, even if it was calling each other out, even if it was angry, it still demanded something from us. And I guess like maybe exposed some pain that we weren't even talking about. It had a bit of a polarizing effect, just because what you see is folks who are only privy to a very small snapshot of, as you mentioned, the fiesta event. Kind of gives us a very small microcosm to the things that are happening here. It could potentially create a much more divisive effect for how they see the Latino community here.
As our community continues to grow with new incoming classes, we hope that each individual brings their own spice of Latinidad to continue the evolution and strengthening of the Latino and Latina community here at Dartmouth College.